there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shireen.
And in continuing with our dark fantasy month for the month of November at Fully Booked, we figured, what better way to do that than to do like a little stop motion creepiness and just add that to the roster of things that we're talking about. So, in that spirit, today we're going to be talking about, the 2009 adaptation of Coraline, which was originally written and published in 1990 by Neil Gaiman. If you don't know who Neil Gaiman is, just Google him. It's everywhere.
Go read a Neil Gaiman book for the love of God.
That's it. Go read one of the books. Go watch Good Omens or American Gods or like anything, guys.
Stardust.
Oh my God, yeah. See, I always forget because it's very different, and I always forget.
Love it though.
A parallel place
We've been waiting for you, Coraline.
where parents are always fun
I love your garden! Can't believe you did this!
and everything is so good
What's shaking, baby?
it just can't be real.
Mom?
You're just in time for supper, dear.
You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have...
Buttons? Do you like them? I'm your other mother, silly.
You probably think this world is a dream come true,
My name!
but you're wrong.
So Coraline currently is sitting at a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb and a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I guess so. I was watching this and I said to my husband, if this movie had been directed by Tim Burton, it would have been so much bigger. Like, there would have been so much merchandise made around this movie.
Okay, so caveat to that, though, because I do want to play devil's advocate on that front. This movie is directed by Henry Selick.
Yeah.
Who technically, and nobody is aware of this because of the name on stuff, is the actual director of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Which would make sense because of the spindliness
And
all
James and the Giant Peach.
So that I believe, because there was clear, like, animation, not continuity, but similarities.
And
with
like
James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah.
I guess The Nightmare Before Christmas as well.
So
in
The Nightmare,
some cases.
The Nightmare Before Christmas, most people aren't aware because it's called Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas because he wrote the original story for it. I think he drew a lot of the characters for it and was very involved in it, but he didn't actually direct the film. And a lot of people think he did, and Henry Selick gets no credit for.
Oh, that's too bad.
And The Nightmare Before Christmas is like a fucking masterpiece. So the director should get some credit for that. He was very heavily involved in many aspects from start to finish of this film. So I think that he deserves like a shout out for that. And obviously his forte is stop motion because he just seems to be really good at it. You know, you look at Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, Coraline. He had one that came out more recently called Wendell and Wild, which I haven't watched, but it's apparently pretty good.
I feel like I have watched
It's on Netflix.
It's on
I don't know.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes, I've watched this one. It's actually really good.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, I'm about to blow you, Shireen, your mind specifically. So I rewatched this movie for the podcast. I have never read the book. And I had only seen the movie one time before I rewatched it. Which I know it doesn't make any sense because it's very up my alley. Yeah. But it was like, when it came out, I watched it, I liked it, and then it was just never on my radar again.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it deserved to have the same level of popularity as The Nightmare Before Christmas,
it does.
in my opinion.
No, I agree.
I read this book. I read this book when I was about 9 years old or 8 years old. It scared the fuck out of me.
Okay, listen, I believe you with the book, but like if I had seen this movie, particularly like the latter third of it as an actual child, I would have been fucking terrified.
Right, and what I was thinking when I was watching it is when you watch the movie, because it's an animated movie, it takes a little bit of the spookiness out.
Yeah, that's fair.
A little bit. But when you read the actual book, because you're putting yourself in that character's shoes.
Yeah, you imagine it's live action. You don't imagine things in animation.
Right? It's live action. It is fucking terrifying as a book. And as a child to read that, oh my God, does it set you straight in terms of your behavior. Let me tell you.
So basically, the novel and the movie follow Coraline Jones, who has recently, with her parents, moved to Oregon from Michigan. In the movie, she's voiced by Dakota Fanning, and I can't figure out if she's meant to have a Michigan accent, but she says words in a really strange way sometimes, like cat and stuff. And I'm like, is that what people from Michigan sound like? Guys, I don't know. I'm Canadian. I have no idea what people from Michigan sound like. But she says things in a really weird, very flat way a lot of the time. And I'm like, that's strange. Is that what she's supposed to sound like? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the specifics are. So they've moved into this, what is it, Pink Palace apartment?
Yes.
This little tiny, like, apartment building, and all the neighbors are wild. She moved in with her parents, who are both, what are they? Horticulturists?
They're horticulturists.
Yeah.
I love her mom's mug that says, I love mulch.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
But, like, if you watch it, like, so basically, Coraline is kind of like this forgotten child because, like, her parents are trying to start, like, their own business. I believe they're trying to write a book.
They're getting a book published about, like, plants or something.
Yeah. They're very, very into their jobs. And I remember when I read the book, it was, like, it's kind of like describing what it's like to be, like, an only child with older parents who are just really busy.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they don't have time for their kids.
Because I don't know, maybe it comes across that way more in the book, but I will say, like, in the movie, like, the first part, when you're watching it, you're like, wow, her parents suck.
Yeah, and
they're not
and it's
nice.
It's like an exaggerated version,
It is.
right? Because again, it's from her perspective, and it's funny watching this as an adult because, like, the mom has, like, these big bags under her eyes.
Oh my God.
And the dad is, like, super goofy and kind of
like
dumb.
kind of gaunt and weird looking.
And then he's like, okay, I don't think that they do it in the book, or I just can't remember, but, like, you know, the food, I think they do it in the book actually. The food that he serves is, like, disgusting. It's like this, like, slime.
Ew.
And it's like a super exaggerated version of like everything wrong with your life.
I don't
right?
think in the movie, I don't think it's sludge that he serves, but it's not stuff that she likes because she doesn't want to like eat the vegetables and stuff because she's like 9.
Yeah.
So she like doesn't want to eat the stuff and her mom's like, shut up and eat your food.
Exactly.
And it's just sort of, it's really parents who are so busy that they don't have time for a young kid. Like that's what it feels like when you're watching it. You're like, okay, like as an adult, I find like when you're watching it, you're like, that's what it seems like to me. It's like these parents, like, I don't know why they have this kid because they obviously don't have time for her.
Yeah. And in the book, she's miserable because she's had to move and like
and she like her friends are all back in Michigan and stuff, so she's like upset about it. So she doesn't have very much to do other than kind of explore the building and the like sort of area around her, which is where she meets Wybie, which is a shortened version of the name Wyborn, which like we don't have time to unpack that.
Moving on.
That's an entire episode in and of itself. I was like, oh my God, these people's parents are horrible.
But again, they're supposed to be, right?
Like, I know. He's a kind of a weird, eccentric kid with a neck problem. What the fuck is wrong with his neck?
I don't think that
his
was a
head
thing
is
in
like
the book.
under his shoulders. Oh, according to what I was reading, Wybie didn't exist in the book.
I don't think he did because she was completely alone in the book.
I think because it's a novella, like it's a shorter story, they expanded on a few things for the film. So I think that Henry Selick added like the character and stuff of Wybie. But so so she meets Wybie, who's like, you know, he's into like bugs and stuff. He's also like a 9-year-old boy. He's into like weird little...
He's like Lucas in the new Goosebumps series.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like a little bit like that. He's you know, he's weird. He's just like a little bit eccentric and a little bit quirky and a little bit strange. And he hangs out with the black cat that's sort of like a stray black cat that lives in the area and like hangs out with him and a few other people. FYI, the black cat's my favorite character. Just keep that in mind. He's fabulous.
I know.
Anyway... So, and Wybie gives her this doll that looks exactly like her, except it's got buttons for eyes. And she's like, "That's weird. Why does this doll look like me?"
I think in the book she finds the doll in the house.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because if there's no character to give it to her, like it needs to come from somewhere.
I think that's what happens.
Okay, that makes sense. So that night she has, I think, what she thinks is a dream where she found this like little door on the ground floor that like, you know, she finally managed to like get her mom to get a key to open.
Her mom, like, again, her mom is so rancid towards her.
She's so mad.
Yeah.
Gets a key to open it, but then it's all bricked up, so they just kind of leave it alone, even though Coraline's like fascinated by the idea, why is this tiny door here? Where does it go? Like, why is it bricked up? That's weird. So when she wakes up in the middle of the night, she follows a jumping mouse which is a thing that you can find in North America, but I'm like, why a jumping mouse? Of all things you could have come up with, what a weird... I mean, like, they're fucking cute because of their long tails, but, like, so random.
Well, they do the other mother's bidding.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's, like, right, because what's-his-face upstairs is making his mouse circus with them.
Right.
Sergei Alexander Bobinsky. Which is the funniest name I've ever heard in my life. And can I just say that movies with an eccentric Russian-speaking character, because I'm engaged to a Russian-speaking person, make me laugh so much. Mostly because their accents are never good.
No, and they're not accurate at all. Before I met your fiance, I was going solely on these terrible Russian accents.
Yeah, of course. How would you know?
And listening to him speak Russian is not as comical as they make it sound in movies. You're just like, oh, it just kind of sounds like a European language.
It does. Well, I mean, to my ear, it's like kind of a harsh language overall. But anyway, but it's just so, he's ridiculous. He's like a retired circus performer, and he's trying to start a mouse circus with the little jumping mice that that are like in his apartment with him, which is so weird. And apparently they talk to him. What? I don't know. She's got that one upstairs. They're on the ground floor, and then, or in like the main part of the house, I guess. Yeah. And then the basement is occupied by these two retired burlesque performers.
They're so funny.
Miss Spink and Forcible is the other one's name. They're ridiculous. Just absurd women who have the most absurd conversations with each other. It's just, if two women who have been working together and living together for 50 years, like, that's what they sound like.
It's gonna be us when we eventually live together.
Maybe. If our husbands die before us, that's probably gonna be what happens. So anyway, so she, in the middle of the night, she hears like noises, and she gets up, she follows the mice who go through the door, which is now open and functional, and there's this weird tunnel that she can crawl through, and she's like, what the hell? So she crawls through it into a nicer version of the house that they're currently living in. It's like a nice...
It's very cozy, all put together.
Because what they're living in right now, it's very old and quite run down.
And, like, they don't have time to, like, decorate or, like, move in properly. So, like, this house is very inviting and welcoming. And it's basically what the house would look like if her parents had time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where she meets the parents that are in this other version of the house, who look exactly like her parents, except they have buttons for eyes.
So fucking scary.
It's really weird. And I also, as a 9-year-old child, like, would not know how to react to this at all.
When I read this book as a 9-year-old, I, like, you know, you kind of get through the context of it. You're like, yeah, her life kind of sucks. Like, yeah, she's moved. Yeah, I can't remember if the neighbors are included in the book. All this is kind of happening. But then you get to the buttons for eyes, and then you're like, what the fuck am I reading?
Wait, what?
Where is this going?
Yeah. So she meets them. They're really nice to her. They pay attention to her. They give her all the food that she likes.
Anything she wants.
They're like, here, this is for you. And then they tuck her into bed in, again, a much nicer, more colorful room than what she has right now. And when she wakes up in the morning, she thinks it was a dream, even though it felt really real, because she wakes up and she's back in, like, her regular place.
Right.
She, she, like, meets Wybie again the next day, and he talks about the fact that his grandmother, who he lives with, her sister disappeared a number of years ago, like, when they were kids or whatever. She spends time, like, with the neighbors and stuff like that, and when she goes to see Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, Spink reads her tea leaves, and, again, like, warns her away from doing anything, because she's like, don't, whatever it is, like, something's reaching out for you, something bad is happening, don't go do that.
Yeah.
No. But the next night, obviously, she doesn't listen. She puts cheese out and decides to follow the mice back through the tunnel and go back into the other house. And she finds, that's it. She finds the other father, her other father. That's what she calls them, other mother and other father, who this father is not overworked and upset all the time. So he has this lovely garden in the backyard with all these, like, beautiful, magical, very whimsical looking things. And again, the mother is like making her all this great food that she loves and everything, and they're being all nice to her.
She wants
and they bring her this version of Wybie who can't talk,
speak, and he's got buttons for eyes.
And he's also got buttons. Everybody has buttons for eyes. It's really weird. And he can't speak because she finds like the regular Wybie is annoying because he talks too much.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really dark. So this one just can't speak at all, which is really upsetting in my opinion. She goes to see the circus with the mice, which in this iteration of things do a really good job. Like they actually, you know, like can like perform in a circus, like act properly, where like the Babinski that lives in the regular world, his mice don't really do anything that they're supposed to do. So they have like that fun little thing. And then she goes to see Miss Fink and Miss Forcible do like a burlesque act, which by the way starts out hilarious because they're both old.
Yes, it's so good.
Oh my god,
they do such a good job in this movie.
Miss Forcible's boobs are just like on
so
another
funny.
level. It's so funny.
Good.
It's very funny. It's very that weird purposeful, disproportionate looking figure that you get in a lot of stop motion stuff because it's meant to like portray the character. The Corpse Bride has a lot of stuff like that, you know, like that kind of vibe to it. But they perform and like their actual younger selves are supposedly hiding in the bodies. And so they come out and like, you know, it's all fun and whatever. And she has like a really good time. And this is around the time that the other mother tells her like, she could stay here. Like, you know, you could stay here with us. You know, we love you. We really like for you to stay here with us.
And you can she's always have everything you
want, you know, and like you would just have to agree. And they're like, we would just have to do something that's a surprise for you to stay. And she's like, what does that mean? And then they take out this box with buttons and a needle and thread and tell her that they would need to sew the buttons or over her eyes or take her eyes
they
and
would take
replace
her
them
eyes
with buttons
out and replace them with buttons.
And the thought of it is just like, well, and the other father makes this comment of just like, it's really sharp, you barely feel it. And I was like, ugh!
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely terrifying. Once again, remind yourselves what you would feel like if you were reading this as a 9-year-old and you're because this is literally what happens in the book. And she's like, you would just have to replace your eyes with buttons. And I'm sitting there going, ugh!
Yeah. And so Coraline is like rightfully terrified and is like, I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna think about it. I'll let you know. And so she tries to go back to the other, like her regular world, right? She's like, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm gonna wake up and I'll be back in my regular one. It's fine. Goes to sleep, wakes up. She has not gone back. No. She's stuck there. She's still in the same place. And she's like, fuck. This is around the time that she also realizes that the cat is in both worlds, but the cat doesn't have buttons on its eyes in the other world. And then the cat is like, oh, no. First of all, it starts talking.
Yes, it can talk in the other world.
Yes, and he's like, oh, no. He's like, I can travel back and forth whenever I want to. Cats are special. We knew that. That was fine. The cat's voiced by Keith David, which probably makes me like him more as well. Keith David is Goliath from Gargoyles. He's Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog. He's also been in a ton of different movies, like John Carpenter's The Thing and like a whole bunch of others. He's a very prolific voice and like physical actor. Very cool dude. I love him, and I love his voice in everything that he does. Like voice acting voice. He's got a great voice. So he voices the cat, which just makes me love the cat even more because it's all sassy. And he's like, you know, he gives her information a lot of the time, and not in like a terrible way. He's just kind of like, I don't know, I think this is probably what you should do.
Based on my observations.
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing, basically. So when she tries to escape, basically she's like, okay, I need to get back to my world. She tries to escape, and the other mother kind of reveals what she actually looks like, because she's just made herself mostly look like, she made herself into a copy of the mom. But she looks like a spider, kind of like she's got extra legs, and she gets all like tall and like spindly looking. It's gross, and weird and very jagged and sharp looking,
and not, you know, like motherly looking at all.
No, not at all. And says like, you know, she's like, oh no, you're not leaving. Like, you're going to stay here, and you're going to stay here until you make your decision and you listen to what I'm telling you, basically. And throws her into this room and locks her in there. And when she's in there, she discovers
the next terrifying part of this story.
Yeah, it's really sad.
There are 3 children spirits who are stuck in this room. they had been enticed the same way that Coraline was by the other mother, who I assume had transformed herself to look like their other mothers.
More than likely.
And they enjoyed themselves so much that they agreed to stay there, and they agreed to have their eyes taken out and made with buttons. And what they reveal is that when she takes their eyes, she takes their soul.
Basically, yeah.
And so she's trapped them because she has their souls.
Which is probably Neil Gaiman's like play on like the eyes are the window to the soul or whatever. So, yeah.
Yep. And so these 3 children are ghosts and they're stuck, and they then say that they're going to help her because they don't want the same thing to happen to her, because she doesn't yet have buttons for eyes, so she's not stuck there.
And she says, like, you know, she's like, what is it? Like, what is she? Like the other mother. And they call her something called the beldam.
Yeah.
And they say that it's the beldam. And when she's angry, that's it. She does this.
Yeah.
And she has been obviously doing this for a while because she's done this to all 3 of these children. And she uses the dolls that look like the kids to spy on their lives and find the weaknesses and find what she can use to exploit and to entice them into staying in the other world with them. They ask Coraline, can you please find our eyes and set us free so that our souls will be free and that we
we're
can
not stuck
move
here.
on, like we can leave, basically. She says she's going to try her best, which I appreciate that she's not like, absolutely. She's like, I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And she's able to get back to the regular world because the other world, Wybie, helps her get through the door.
He gets her out. He's had his mouth sewn into a smile.
Oh, I hate that because he was frowning before and the other mother didn't like it. Oh, I hated that so much. I was like, no, baby.
She said if you frown, then Coraline's not going to want to come back here. So she sewed his mouth into a smile. So Coraline like takes it out, like takes off the sewing. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, he helps her, so she gets back through. And then, you know, but she has to go and save these kids, right? She wants to set them
and
free.
she also like realizes around this time that her parents are missing because the beldam has taken them as well and trapped them. She sees them in a mirror at first. They're trapped in like some sort of weird winter dimension because they're all covered with ice and snow and they look really cold.
In the snow globe.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's it. They're in the snow globe.
They're in the snow globe.
So she has to go back because she has to do that and she has to, you know, make sure that she can save her parents and she can also save the kids potentially as well. And the cat is like, well, she likes to play games, so I think you should suggest this as like a game with her that, like, you know, within an amount of time, like, you'll find the eyes and you'll be able to, you'll figure out where your parents actually are and you'll be able to tell her that. So she does that and the beldam agrees to it and is like, okay, fine. You know, she finds out that the other Wybie was killed because his little suit is hanging up and there's nothing in it. And I'm like, oh, God.
And the other father isn't actually a person. It's like a weird, like, praying mantis creature.
Oh, that was terrifying. Oh, my God. All the fucking bug things. I hate it.
This whole movie and book is terrifying, but he is, like, he's coming at her trying to attack her, and he's apologizing to her the whole time. Yeah. Saying, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And
mother is making me do this.
He gives her one of the souls as he's, like, going down, you know?
Yeah, as he basically dies also.
Yeah.
She is able through that, and then one of the, I think it's Miss Forcible, has like a pearl ring on her hand, which is one of the other eyes as well, one of the other things in which they're trapped, so she's able to get that. And then she's finally able to get the third one as well, and she tricks the other mother because she's like, oh, no, I know where my parents are. They're through the door, just to get her to unlock the door so that she can get back. And then very meanly throws the cat at her.
I knew you were going to get mad about that.
Oh, my God, it made me so mad. I was like, wow, I forgot about this, and it pissed me off.
Yeah.
Throws the cat at her is just like, man, like the cat's pissed too, which I don't fucking blame him for. He like attacks her, has a fight with the other mother, and then he leaves, which like I would also dip at that point.
Right,
he's like, no, thank you, that was ridiculous. At this point, the entire room turns into like a big spider web. Yeah. And the other mother kind of reveals like her final form, sort of like what she really looks like, which is kind of like a big skeleton spider thing. Yeah. This whole scene where she's chasing her on the spider's web, because Coraline because she threw the cat at her, the cat scratched the button eyes out of her face, so she can't see.
Right.
So she's just chasing her based on like a spider. How
And
like in a
Coraline
spider's web, it if you trigger something, it can feel where you are, so it will follow its prey up. That's exactly what she does.
Right. And like side note, Coraline has found the snow globe containing her parents at this point.
Yes, and she's trying to get out with it, basically. Yeah. So she manages to climb through and get the door closed and everything. And so she narrowly escapes. When she gets back through, the snow globe is broken, and her parents are there, but they don't remember anything that's happened.
They don't even acknowledge that they're covered
that
in
they're
snow.
cold. Like they're cold. They've got ice and snow all over them. Like nothing is said at all. But they've finished their book and they're really excited about it, and so they do like actually like give her a little bit more attention and everything. Her mom buys her these gloves that she wanted at the beginning of the film when they were shopping for like school uniforms and stuff. She wanted these like colorful gloves, and her mom wouldn't get them for her, and then she gets them for her at the end, and they plan a party as like a garden party to like get to know the neighbors and everything, invite everybody over, Wybie and his grandmother and stuff like that as well. And that night is basically the ghost kids, now that they're basically free, they do come back to warn her, like it's not done yet, like it's not over, you're still in danger. And the other mother, her hand had been severed when her and Coraline were fighting over the door, and so the hand has come through and it's trying to get to her basically. And she's got the key to the door, and she's like, I need to get rid of it. I need to go put it somewhere where like no one will find it. So she goes to bury it, but the hand shows up and fights with her. And again, it looks like it's like a metal spider, basically.
Well, yeah, it looks like it's made of needles, like sewing needles. If you look at it closely, and I think that's what it's made of.
That's probably what it is. That would make sense because it would tie into everything with the sewing of the buttons and all that stuff as well. So it attacks her. It almost gets her, but Wybie comes to the rescue on his bike, and he like destroys it. They bash it with a rock, and then they throw it down a well, and they get rid of the key at the same time. And so then like the closing is just like the next day when they have their garden party, and everybody gets to like meet each other, and Coraline gets to meet Wybie's grandmother, and I think is going to have a conversation with her about her sister and like what happened potentially to her, and that's kind of like how they close everything out. And the cat forgives her, which he didn't have to do.
You're so mad.
He was my favorite character. I loved him. Just sassy enough, sassy. Not too Cheshire Cat, like just sassy enough that I was like, yeah, that's like a cat.
Cool cat.
He's like a cool cat.
He's a good cat.
Yeah.
But, I would say the movie, from what I remember, the book, because I would never read that book again.
I love that it, like, traumatized you.
Not that it was badly written. It was very well written, very captivating. I just remember being so shocked that it was written for children.
Yeah.
Because Neil Gaiman had another book that he wrote for children. It's called The Graveyard Book. A lot more tame. It's about a young boy whose parents are murdered when he's a baby, and as I think he escapes the murderer, like as a baby, he crawls
away, and he winds up in a graveyard,
and all the ghosts look after him. They
like raise him, basically. Yeah, it's really cute.
And his name is Bod because his name is Nobody because he doesn't have a name.
Well, they didn't know what his name was when he arrived, obviously, so they just named him Bod, and it's really cute.
It's extremely cute. So if you want a Neil Gaiman's children's book that doesn't traumatize you,
I mean, it is like
The Graveyard Book.
It is still dark in a way, but at the same time, it's not quite as much as this. This is like when you really get into the nitty gritty of this, you're like, oh god, what the fuck? This is scary now when I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, no, but brilliant author, brilliant writer. Love Neil Gaiman. Yeah. And the movie was really well done.
Yes, very well done. Everything looks so good. Yeah. There's something extra, additionally whimsical about stop motion animation that really just works. I don't know what it is. It just does.
And they did a good job choosing to do this movie that way.
I think so. I think it works. The animation style works so incredibly well. I agree.
Yeah. So that's it. Was the book better? Yes, I suppose, if you want the terrifying factor, but the movie was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it depends, I guess, like what your perspective is on that. So have you guys seen Coraline? You probably have. Most people have probably seen it more than I have, honestly. Yeah. Or have you read the book? You can let us know about that over on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Threads at fullybookedca. And you can also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/book was way better. And if you're still here with us for Dark Fantasy Month, please leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening, because it really helps us get the show out in front of more people. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.